So it only takes one person to do something different.
Get your daily dose of motivation on the Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast. In Motivation with Michelle podcast, you'll get encouraging, uplifting, and life-changing wisdom that will transform your world at your fingertips, 24 hours a day. Get a fuller, deeper revelation of the tools you can implement to see incredible transformation in your life from Michelle Neustadter's powerful teachings. Tune in whenever you need to be edified, uplifted, or a dose of motivation, no matter where you are. Subscribe to Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast with Michelle Neustadter today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.
Really quick discussion around some of the common
marriage
complaints.
problem.
Yeah, the common complaints that couples are coming to therapy for. I don't know how many couples you see. I see a lot of them though. So
yeah, so do I. I see a lot of marriages in crisis, but the other half of the marriage isn't willing to work on the marriage. So one of the people come in and I'm frustrated and I want things to work, but so-and-so won't do this. And I'm just like, oh boy. And that was one of my heavy ones yesterday, emergency session, because she wrote off the marriage. He's been trying for 2 years to work on himself and do all these things. And she keeps saying, no, 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 no. So he finally decides, okay, fine, I'll let you go. Gets a girlfriend, has been smitten by her. And now his wife is like, we're not done yet. We're going back to counseling. And it's like, I've been chasing you for 2 years. And now you decide you want to work. And yeah, it's so hard because some of that looks manipulative. Some of it feels more like almost like a narcissist abuse kind of thing. And it's just like this poor guy and the marriage is fractured and it's horrible. But yeah, actual couples that are working on their things, I'd probably say about 20 to 25% of my clients are going to be couples right now. And it was a lot higher than that before, but I'm just finding so much pain right now and so much brokenness, so much infidelity.
I'm curious. When you have only one party of the couple come in and they really do want to work on their relationship, what do you think is some of the most key things that an individual can do that supports a healthy dynamic in their relationship?
Well, one of the things I always stress with people is like very simple things, like even if they have the right to be angry at the other person, justice, for instance, we often fantasize about justice for others. What my partner did was wrong and he deserves or she deserves whatever, the truth with both barrels. I talk about the difference between justice, mercy, and grace. And justice is getting what we deserve, but that doesn't heal relationships. And how can you go back into this relationship? How can you be the better person right now? Even if your partner's actions deserve a certain response, is it possible to show them mercy instead, which is not getting what you deserve? Bite your tongue, vent to somebody else, don't keep venting on them. Or can you go even farther and go into mercy, which is giving them what they don't deserve and finding a way to just bless them just because? And how can you show love to the unlovable? And oftentimes I'll tell them about my own 4-month separation with my wife and how she was the one that loved me. And I, at that time, was the unlovable one. And she loved me back from wanting out of the marriage to 4 months later, redoing our vows and lighting our unity candle and rebuilding our relationship to where it is now at 22 years later. So when one half is invested and the other half isn't, I'm very honest with them. I talk about the gap between people. I use a triangle diagram and it's like, you know what, you're here, your partner's here. A lot of therapists will try to navigate the gap between you, but that gap is a consequence of things. We don't necessarily heal the rift. We need to reorient the couple to a common goal, in which case is growth. or God, or however we want to word it. And as that person moves closer to growth and the other person moves closer to growth, the distance between you guys dwindles. If the one person does all the growing and the other person won't, then they do drift apart. And it could be a consequence where the relationship fails if they do all the growing and their partner never gets on board. And I outline that right up front. This could be a recipe for disaster if your partner will not adjust or partner with you in this growth. The other alternative is you abandon all your growth and you just settle and you accept a dysfunctional relationship. So I lay that out right at the beginning. And it's like, I want to work with both sides if I can, or at least see that other person put in some effort. But the reality is, if one person's doing all the work, this is not a good prognosis for the relationship.
I think that there's things that an individual can do that help to foster that healthy space between the two of them. Obviously, yes, if you got both parties that are like ready and willing to do some real work on the relationship, you're going to probably have better success or quicker success. When only one party is working on it, it's almost like you have to determine the relationship you want to have and start to work on creating it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if that person does the growing, there is always that chance that their partner sees the change and will respond. It's like, I'm always hopeful for that. Is this change going to be healthy for the whole couple? Will your partner be less oppositional when they see a grace about you, when they see a gentleness, when they see forward movement, when they see you not being so combative or willing to fight about certain things? So, I mean, I do wonder that too. And it does create a foundation for reconciliation. But even that, it takes one person to forgive, but it takes two people to reconcile. So at some point, that other person has to be willing to reconcile the differences. That first piece, that one partner doing all the work, can they forgive their partner? That might be the catalyst for that reconciliation to come. So I do spend a lot of time focusing on the forgiveness piece and how can you let go of the misdeeds of your partner and truly be at peace within the relationship. That alone might create the catalyst for reconciliation.
Absolutely. And I mean, we just have this like tendency to react to things that happen around us. So like we might be doing something that we believe is helpful or positive, but the other person is not responding the way we want them to, and then we react back to them. Or they come into the house and they're all grumpy, so then we're like, what the hell? Like, just because you had a bad day doesn't mean you get to be mean to me. And we try to like put up these walls, but we do that in kind of a really harsh way.
Yeah.
And so then the other person just remains in that higher state of emotion and continues to react more, right? Whereas if we can do that bit of mindset shift and our partner comes in and they're all grumpy and we greet them and we hug them and we're just like, I'm glad you're home.
Yeah.
And then we kind of let them sort of settle and deal with whatever they're dealing with. Often that emotion level comes way down, which then allows us to interact more fluently with one another.
Absolutely.
But I have to decide inside myself that I'm willing to put that stuff down.
Right.
I have to make a mindset shift that I'm going to show up. And maybe I'm going to lean into whatever they're going through and do some really good active listening and being curious and inquisitive and holding space for my partner.
Exactly.
And allowing their emotion level to come down. And it might not feel fair that why do I always have to do it?
Right.
Well, because you're the one I'm talking to and you're the one who knows.
That's right. And that mirrors exactly what I was just saying in terms of justice. It's not fair. We could do what's fair. If they come in grumpy, it would be fair to treat them according to their grumpiness. But that doesn't win people over. It's that mercy piece. How do I bite my tongue? How do I just, like you said, come up to them, give them a hug, That's a form of grace. They don't deserve that. But when you give them what their actions don't deserve, that can diffuse people in ways. Like, grace is so powerful. It's like it's walking in love, even when it's not deserved. There's so many implications to that, where it's better than just biting our tongue. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go. Nope, not going to respond to that either. Nope, I'm going to keep biting my tongue. That's all mercy. But grace is taking that extra step to say, oh, it's good to see you. I love you. Why don't you unwind, and I'm here if you want to chat. Like, again, not what he was expecting, or she, I don't want to stereotype, but it's this idea of, wow, I did not deserve that. I was a dick and I was shown grace. Absolutely, it can change things.
And for the partner willing to engage in that, it brings the peace that you want to have in your relationship.
Totally.
So you're getting the relationship that you want as the end result.
Yeah.
So is that worth that little bit of extra effort?
Right.
Is that worth me allowing myself to kind of just like be in that vulnerable space and be the one who does the work? And
yeah,
is it worth it to like live in that relationship that I want to have? Because I move my partner to where I want them to be by doing it, without saying like, I need you to be more kind and receptive to me. We move them there just by our behavior.
Yeah, we model it, and then we're coaching them to their better self, which I think is great. This is all about influence. I mean, we don't control our partner, and that's not what Michelle or I are saying. For those that are listening, we're not trying to control or manipulate outcomes, but we are very aware of influence. And this is exactly what we're doing here, is you're choosing how you want to influence that relationship. Influence is power. It's not control. So how do we use our personal power, our reactions, or better yet, our responses that we pre-decide, that we've already chosen, no matter what comes through that door? Here's how I want to respond. If I can choose that response before I'm ever put into the crucible, then I'm very likely to execute what I've pre-decided to do. And that very well may influence the relationship in a positive way. And then we get the relationship we're looking for, because people all want to be loved. Even whoever's dealing with the grumpies that day, deep down, that person wants to be accepted and loved. And if we can get past the behaviors and love the heart of that person, is it more likely or less likely that you're going to get a favorable response? Being able to influence people, I think, is huge.
And like you said, we influence through that modeling place, that we influence through our behavior, because that's the only thing I have any control of anyway. I can control me, and I can control how I show up. So if I can define that space I want to live in, that relationship I want to have, and the actions, behaviors, thoughts of the person in my shoes, then I can show up that way.
Yeah.
And that's going to shift the whole dynamic. So it doesn't have to take two to change the relationship. One person can do that work. Like I said, obviously it's always more beneficial if both parties are learning that same resource and showing up and giving their effort. I mean, everybody's going to have bad days.
No, and I do like your perspective. I think I'm already being swayed a little. So
yeah, because sometimes we think that if only one person is growing, that the relationship can't get to where it needs to. It just sometimes takes a different pathway to get there. Or it's that idea, like, so even if it's like, I don't know, we want our partner to be healthier, and I start taking care of me, I start getting exercise, I start eating healthier, I start drinking more water, it's likely that down the road my partner is going to follow suit in maybe small ways. It'll just take a little bit longer, right? Because I'm kind of like pulling them up with me while I'm going up, right?
Yeah, I mean, there still has to be an element of intention on behalf of our partner as well. I don't think it's completely passive, but at some point they do make an intentional decision to follow their partner. But
no, it's not completely passive, right? But we are capable of shifting things within how the dynamics in the relationship are working. Because if I shift my dynamic, then I shift theirs. It takes one person to do it, right? If you've ever done any of the Cartman's Triangle stuff, the drama triangle.
Yeah.
Right.
Traitor and rescuer and victim.
Yeah. It only takes one person to step out of those roles for it to change the whole triangle. So it only takes one person to do something different.
No, I do see what you're saying. If one person makes all these changes, the default almost changes. It takes less effort to follow your partner into this new way of thinking. It would take almost more effort to remain rigid and stay in your old mindset. It's like, no, I'm going to eat potato chips while you're drinking your water and working out right now. How's your workout going? Like, that's almost harder sometimes than making some minor changes.
Do you want to reignite the spark in your relationship?
How can you be more fearless?
How can you anchor yourself to the truths you know, but you aren't living out?
Fearlessly Anchored Marriages is a program that will teach you to live love intentionally. Anything you want in life does not come accidentally.
So why would your relationship be any different?
Over the next 12 weeks, you will be exposed to some of the mindset blocks that could interfere with your current relationship. You will be coached to learn how to set boundaries, how to recognize opportunities, how to develop self-awareness, how to lead yourself and lead your relationship.
We've all been there. The struggle is real. We want to feel connected, heard, valued, and loved. Join us in transforming your relationship. Reignite the flame.
Reconnect. Refresh. Fearlessly Anchored Marriages. Let's live love
intentionally.